In the northeast corner of Shelby County in west central Ohio, where State Routes 274 and 65 cross on the map, there's a dot. Even though it only takes up 1.5 square miles of this rich farmland, you may be surprised at what happens here every day. The economy is so strong that the population of this village doubles during the work hours. It's a destination point for thousands of travelers who come on a pilgrimage from all over the world to visit. It's a place where the classrooms are the focus during the day, and gymnasiums are where the town gathers at night. There's no need to look on Wikipedia to learn the resume of this place because it's boldly displayed right here. They want you to know you're entering the home of champions. It's a small town that's doing big things, and this is their story.
I think Jackson Center is a community that is noted for moving forward.
Our industrial base is unbelievable.
It's a cross-section of what made America and West Central Ohio great.
Life's a game. Oh, heck yes, I'm teaching them the game of volleyball, but by golly, you better make sure that you are thinking about the bigger picture as to what's really going on in the space around you.
We don't quit when we're tired. We don't quit when it's raining. We quit when the job's done and when it's done right.
Jackson Center wins the state championship!
It's pretty awesome coming from Jackson Center.
As someone who is a transplant here, it was apparent to me that the story of Jackson Center needs to be told. It's a small town that's similar to other, but it is a unique story.
Well, Jackson Center is not behind the times, so to speak, but really Jackson Center in this school is the type of story, as people look at it and see it, they'll say, you know what? The problems and the things that we see in pop culture or on movies or on newscasts, similar to what happened today with the shooting and all that, why couldn't, that time doesn't exist anymore? Well, yes, it does.
Why the name Jackson Center was picked, there's a little contention. It could have been after somebody from a Civil War general. We are now the center of Jackson Township, which is no big deal because there are over 35 Jackson Townships in the state of Ohio. It was built for some of the same reasons that America was founded, for religious freedom, because the first families, everybody in Jackson Center was a member of that Seventh-day Baptist religion. And there was a little persecution, they were looked down on, whatever. They decided that they wanted to just pick up, load their wagons and move, and they ended up here. If you'll notice the signs when you come into town, the new ones actually, 1835 is the founding. One of the big families was Davis. They were some of the early pioneers. They're buried at the cemetery on the west edge of town. They were entrepreneurial. They owned local clothing stores as the businesses began to form. They had a dairy farm, different enterprises like that. So they were always involved in local businesses.
And that's where the Jackson Center story began, with a spirit of independence and entrepreneurship. And through the years, and even today, that spirit continues to flourish.
So everything you needed was here. There were harness shops, there were butcher shops, there were 3 millinery shops, millinery meaning ladies' fancy hats. There were clothiers, we had tailors here. You could actually buy the Dayton motorcycle, could be bought here. There were general stores. At that point, prosperity followed the railroad. If you had railroad through your town, things were more prosperous. Art Sprague, one of the local high school graduates from here, and a group of other people got together, helped raise money to have that trestle built so that the DT&I, Detroit, Toledo, and Ironton Railroad, would come through Jackson Center. And that then freight was delivered by that, mail came through, there was passenger travel.
The DT&I train station opened up Jackson Center to the nation. Farms now could sell perishable goods to new customers, and local stores now could offer goods delivered from other cities in record time. Tom explained how over 100 years ago, a local grocer could order a product via telegraph in a method not so different from today's Amazon Prime.
So what they did is they went to the train station, the telegrapher sent the distributor up there a message, said, "Dear Bond Moody, Jackson Center, Ohio, would like to order a 10-pound wheel of a certain type of cheese." They'd pack it up, put it on the DT&I Railroad, train stopped, unloaded the freight. They walked over, picked up the cheese, took it back to the store, and sold it. They were the coal-powered FedEx of the day, shall we say. Early baseball teams would travel here from as far as Kansas and Oklahoma to play games here. They had 1,500 people, which is a capacity of our current gymnasium now, traveled here in 1925 and paid 50 cents a piece to watch these two teams play. Now, that's a big deal in the 1920s.
There's stories about the Corn brothers, who I don't know if a whole lot of people know who they are, but they're contemporaries of the Wright brothers. They had the first airport.
They used to print money that had Jackson Center's name on it, First National Bank. And we're talking 1928 and 29 in that time era.
I think the history of not only Jackson Center, but all the local small towns are great because they were founded by people willing to venture out a little bit, take a chance, make their lives better, move on, doing just like we do today. They want better things for their families, their children and grandchildren and the unborn grandchildren beyond that. They want them to grow up in a better time, in a better place, have things a little easier than what they had.
And the priorities continue even today as this community and school respect a Wednesday night tradition called Faith and Family Night, where no school activities are scheduled past 6 p.m. so that families have the ability to attend church services or just spend time together without the demands of school extracurricular scheduling.
The family is the focus in Jackson Center, and even new people that have moved in like me, we've been able to build and kind of weave into a lot of the family structure here, and then our families are growing now, and it's kind of cool to watch. But yeah, Jackson Center, that time where people have nostalgia about, it still exists here in a lot of ways.
In my opinion, well, the school is the most important building in your community. And that's the way it always has felt. I served I'm serving on the fire department 25 years now, and I had about 9 years as chief. And I always told everybody that's the most important building in our fire district. It's the school. The second one's my house, but the first one is the school.
It's a hot and muggy mid-August morning. While students in other schools are still on vacation, Jackson Center students are starting on their first day. The reason is historic. Jackson Center has been on a tight timeline, updating its facilities, which house kindergarten through 12th grade. The last new section, which began construction just a few short months ago, will be completed 1 year from today. And to make room for the new, the old must go. The iconic 1928 wing will need to be torn down by next summer.
It's a a pretty exciting time of year. There's going to be a lot of new stuff, and you're going to see stuff going up very quickly. I walked by this morning. They're putting the ceiling beams in for what's going to be our auxiliary gym.
This is nothing new. Jackson Center has built or added upgrades to this location almost every 25 years. It all began with this building, which was opened at the turn of the last century.
Again, it was typical. Kindergarten or first grade kids were in the basement, then you move up to the next floor was first, second, third, then you move up to the, there were 3 rooms on the first floor, first, second, third grade, walked up the creaky old wooden steps, and 4th, 5th, and 6th grades were upstairs.
I remember the old building, big tall ceilings, big chalkboards, wooden steps going up and down. I remember going up and down. It had two or 3 stories, but I remember we had some classes upstairs.
And it was a common practice to have every student line up in a big long row and have everybody's pictures taken at one time. So that was a 1910 building, and that came down in 1965.
By the booming 1920s, Jackson Center built this 1928 edition, which at the center featured a gymnasium.
That gym has been used a lot. I mean, dances, the games, just a lot of community activities took place in there.
Prom was a big deal because you transformed the gym into a night, and you dropped the ceiling, and we put wires down and all that crepe paper. We had the fake ceiling there.
That was one of the biggest gyms in the county at that particular time.
I think the total for the occupancy for that building was only 483.
I have friends from Dayton that will come up and they might tease me a little bit about living in a small town and all that kind of stuff. And then they come up here and when they see the 28 gym and they're like, wow, that's pretty neat.
Looking at the gym, you wonder how you did things because it is so small. And I was telling my wife, looking at the stands, they were packed.
You'll see the emblem, the tiger says Jackson Center, class of 1961. On the emblem in the middle of the floor, my wife, Karen, graduated in 61, and her class had that painted on the floor and then left $25 to have it repainted if it ever wore out.
I remember, the up and down the stairs between classes. You got a locker in one end of the building and your class is in the opposite end of it.
The school was heated with coal. The cinders were taken out, crushed up, and spread around by hand around the track with a wheelbarrow, and that's where we had track and field practice was out there.
As Jackson Center grew, so did the footprint of the school, with additions in 1955 and 1965. In 1981, a new 1,400-seat gym was dedicated, demoting the 1928 gym to only middle school sports and class plays. By the dawn of the new century and internet revolution, it was clear that most of the building was beyond upgrading. In 2003, the community voted to build a new high school attached to the east side of the building. And in 2014, with no real options to refit the nearly 90-year-old 1928 addition, the community voted to replace the oldest sections of the school so that the entire campus could be state-of-the-art for the next generation of Tigers.
It just brings back a lot of memories walking through here. So, I'm really sad to see this part go because it's just so homey, it's close, it's just got that feeling. But I'm excited about the new part to start a new journey.
I'm excited about something new for the kids.
As you can see, I am very excited to get a new school. Once the new school is built, I will be even prouder to be a Jackson Center Tiger.
They deserve something new, something more like everybody else is going to, and it's time for it to go, I guess.
And it's a little sentimental because my grandma on my mom's side, she went to high school here, and that was back in the 40s or 50s, so it is a little sad, she went to high school in the old part and it'll be torn down. And so but we need a new school, so.
I don't think the building makes the student. It's the people that teaches the student.
You get so much here at Jackson Center, even though it's small.
Which brings us to an important difference about Jackson Center schools. This community, and many surrounding it, have made a choice. Bigger is not necessarily better when it comes to education.
Class of 2016, there was 29 kids. I mean, at the school, there was only 3 senior boys.
I think we do extremely well, not only in garnering a lot of good scholarships for kids, but we have AP courses now, and I know there's another title to it, but you know, they have the opportunity to go on and take college courses while they're still here in high school.
My 2 grandchildren, the one I'm just talking about right now, his 2 kids, they're in Lakota school system down in Cincinnati area. They have over 15,000 kids in the district. We've got less than 600. But honestly, with video learning and that now, they don't have anything more advanced than we can have, and our kids have a lot of opportunities to participate in the extracurriculars if they want to.
I was always told back, you know, when I was in school that the more you're involved in, the better.
Schools you go to, you know, they just know their classmates maybe. We know everybody in the whole building.
All my social media is just my best friends, which I already know most of the stuff anyway, so.
It's fun because classes were small and you knew everybody. Everybody knows everybody. That's what made it so fun. You didn't want, like you didn't know anybody. It was really tight-knit.
When we have a kid who's struggling, every teacher notices and every administrator notices. And we can reach out to that kid in a lot of different ways. The small schools in West Central Ohio, their test scores, their how they do on any state achievement, the West Central Ohio is killing it as far as a regional group in comparison to any other part of the state.
We did discover one disadvantage to being in a small class. When the girls outnumber the guys 8-1, how do the girls handle dates for the prom?
Oh man, you'd think they'd fight over us, but it wasn't that at all. It was almost like they were tired of us, and they had to go from the neighboring schools to get their dates. It was kind of funny, really.
My first night here, we're playing Fairlawn. Before the JV game ever started, every seat was packed in here, packed on the stage, and they were standing seriously 5 deep out into the hallways with all of these doors up here. I said, I'm in the right place.
So the atmosphere of you know, really Friday night basketball in Shelby County is something that makes it very fun and exciting.
In fact, it's rare when we go to any game, particularly tournament time, where we're outnumbered. Jackson Center community literally shuts down for some of these games.
I think our local population for Jackson Center, including rural, is just slightly over 1,400. Our gymnasium seats 1,500. So the message there is, it's a big sport.
We did better in basketball than they did. Who? My class. We went to the district, you didn't.
We didn't even get out of the county.
The younger kids really look up to him because, you know, they'll go, oh, there goes a basketball player.
You have the Tigers written across your chest. It's all about the community, not yourselves.
I remember 1963, no team from Shelby County had ever been to the state basketball tournament. And what a big deal it was, particularly when there were only 2 classes, A and AA, and also, you know, there very probably were around 600 schools in Class A at that time, and Jackson Center made it.
You know, this was a big deal back in 1963.
With 4 divisions today makes the opportunity a little bit greater, but when there was 2 divisions, and we was one of the smallest schools in the state of Ohio then also, and gone to state tournament, I mean, this place was unbelievable.
We used to have county tournaments, so you'd have to win. You literally would have to play all these folks twice, and then in a tournament 3 times. Difficult to beat a team a couple times, let alone 3. We had an exceptional class, 27 boys, 7 girls, and I think tall for our age back then. I was a wing guard at 6'2". Most of our center was 6'5" and 6", but I mean pretty good size kids. St. John's, the big house. The guy that I was guarding, we were tied and not supposed to foul, and he put up what would be equivalent to a three-pointer. I was supposed to have a hand in his face, but I was back probably too far. And but yeah, and so when the ball went through the net, there was no seconds left.
Sheriff Lenhart talked about how down in the dumps everybody was when they got beat in the state final and right at the end of the ball game and everything, in a very winnable game. But then he talked about when the team had its homecoming here in Jackson Center, the reception they got. They were treated like champions and felt like champions.
It was a celebration like no other.
I still remember the team photo that was in the old Feedbag restaurant at the west edge of town, looking at that and just being continually reminded throughout the 1960s what a special thing that was.
Jackson Center is booming.
Midwest small towns, in many cases, have either evolved into suburbs of larger cities or vanished completely. Jackson Center chose to innovate and reinvent instead of holding on to what used to work. So, even though many storefronts and small stores moved away, something much bigger has moved in and taken up roots. Manufacturing.
There was, stories about Airstream and Plastipack and the innovation and the perseverance and the hard work that came from building those companies.
Industry, without industry, we wouldn't be what we are. So we're going to bend over backwards to help them out as often and as much as we can.
With our bigger industries for the industrial manufacturing, we have about 11, and then we have like 60 commercial, small businesses. So we're very blessed with big to small. 1,397 people come to Jackson Center every day to work. And our population is 1,462, so we almost double in size every day.
The largest factory is a name anyone would recognize, Airstream. Every Airstream RV since the early 1950s, including ones used by local hero Neil Armstrong after his visit to the moon, as well as others famous in movies and song, they were all built, every one of them, right here.
Well, here in Jackson Center, it's our one location. We distribute internationally from Jackson Center, Ohio. Take a lot of pride in seeing Airstreams on the road, and really everywhere you go, if you keep your eyes open, you can see them.
Usually I just mention the silver Twinkie or the Airstream, and most people can figure out where Jackson Center is by that analogy.
And it's also fun to work for a company that's so globally recognized. In fact, I had the mayor here tell me when he travels and he tells people Jackson Center, they don't know what it is, but then he says Airstream and he sees this light go off and they, oh, Airstream, the travel trailers.
Wally Byam was looking for a more centrally located distribution point for his travel trailers in 1952. So he loaded up everything he needed in 2 trailers and brought an empty, completed trailer shell with him here in 1952. It had no interior in it. Brought it looking for a place to start a factory. Sitting in a local tavern or someplace, a restaurant, whatever in this area, somebody said, well, I know where there's an empty garage. It was called Casey's, C-A-S-E-Y, Casey's Tractor and Radiator Repair. That building was empty.
Wally Byam saw the property, liked the location, and we started manufacturing here in 1953. The company's really been in a renaissance. I call it the new golden age of Airstream. We're currently building 72 travel trailers a week and about 13 of our Class B, Type B motorhomes a week, 730 employees. We're very proud of our hiring record, very proud of our workforce. And we're a pretty important piece of the Jackson Center community, as you might imagine. We're the largest employer here in town by a bunch. Great relationship with the village, the local schools. We get nothing but great support from the local community.
We know how valuable industry is to us, and we know that without industry we wouldn't be where we are. So if one of the industries needs a bucket truck or to change a light bulb or to do something, maintain, take care of some maintenance at their plant, we bend over backwards for them. We know what the benefits of them being in our community is.
And the love runs both ways.
You know, here in Jackson Center, a lot of our dedication has been to the local school and the education system. They've gone through a bit of a renaissance here, building a new school facility. Airstream's funding a Chromebook program. We want to get Chromebooks in the hands of all those kids so that technology can add to their learning experience, but also give them skill sets they're going to need as they go on to their further pursuits, whether it's a job or further education. We're funding a Habitat for Humanity build here in Jackson Center. The land was donated by Habitat, and we're providing all the materials and the labor to build a house for a needy family.
And every year, thousands from all over the world make the pilgrimage back to the birthplace of their Airstream.
On your way out, drive by, we have the little camping area over here by the service building. Drive through there and look at the license plates. You'll see Alaska, California, Texas. It's a real kick for me to work for a company that's so well known but also so well loved. It's just part of the fabric of Americana.
If there's a plastic container in your home, there's a good chance it may have been created at Plastipack. This longtime supporter of the local school is celebrating its 50th year in Jackson Center. Bill Young founded Plastipack with the innovative idea that bottles could bounce in a time when glass was king. Now they're the premier bottler for many of the largest manufacturers in the world. Plastipack employs over 800 people around the clock in Jackson Center, and they're continuing to expand. Airstream and Plastipack are just a couple of the manufacturers in Jackson Center. The village continues to welcome new businesses, large and small, every year.
I think we've got a lot of things going on in Jackson Center that people aren't aware of, and we want to make it known that this is a pretty special place.
We have our own electric system, and we can be competitive on rates.
We have control over our electric outages, reliability. When we have an outage, we know there's 2 full-time electricians that's going to be on the job in a hurry.
We are a agricultural community blessed with industry.
Not very far away is Cargill, not very far is Dan and Yogurt. And so our ag products feed those markets.
What made Jackson Center and a lot of other small communities in this area unique is that you learned how to work. Mom and Dad expect you to work, and we had chores, and we took care of things on the farm. And summertime, we couldn't play baseball like the town kids could. We're baling hay and baling straw and taking care of the farm work. So work ethic, wouldn't trade it for anything.
We want to keep our industry close to us, make sure we work with the farmers and keep everything in the right space. The biggest thing that's going to be coming on our doorstep now is residential development. We're growing in all other aspects, and now we need our residential to grow as well.
It's not by accident that Jackson Center grew. It's not by accident that industry is here. It's not by accident that our work ethic is the way it is. I use cliches like, we don't quit when we're tired, we don't quit when it's raining. We quit when the job's done and when it's done right.
It's been our goal to keep moving forward, keep making improvements, because if you're not moving forward and moving in the right direction, there's no such thing as standing still.
If it's an issue, if it's a problem, the persons that are closest to the problem can figure out a solution and know how to solve it. And I think small businesses and I think small towns can accomplish that much easier than large conglomerations or large towns.
We were Hoosiers before Hoosiers. Hoosiers came out 2 years after us. The movie did. The Milan thing, that happened back in the 50s. But I'll tell you what, this whole scenario is exactly the same as the movie, and we were Hoosiers 2 years before the movie came out.
Jerry Harmon came in the fall of '76, inherited a team that was 0-21, but they had a great nucleus in town of people who wanted to get involved with basketball.
Pretty thin times in basketball.
Jackson Center's basketball had really hit the bottom.
Back in '83, the '82-'83 season, Brian Scoggin, a sophomore, had been a season-long starter. Tony Meyer was elevated to the varsity later in the year. You could see the pieces were going to be there for great success in '84 and maybe even the ultimate prize in '85.
A previous team had made it to state and just came within a whisker of winning the state, and that showed me this town's got the potential. It's not a fluke.
An incredible Shelby County on Shelby County regional final matchup, Jackson Center against Fort Loramie. They split in the regular season. Jackson Center won the tournament game. We knew Shelby County would have a representative. It was a matter of who it was.
A lot of people thought, well, okay, it's been a nice year. So what if we get blown out by Columbus Worley? I know that was in a lot of people's minds.
Worley in those days was ranked by USA Today as one of the elites in the country. But our Shelby County teams, particularly Jackson Center, were well coached enough that they could come up with a game plan that could frustrate a team like that.
We beat them by 5 points.
We had a game that was close throughout, that I would say Jackson Center, in looking back, was behind for a good bit of it. It got down to the end, and with roughly 90 seconds to go, I didn't think things looked all that good.
State title could hang in the balance.
Theory and the philosophy that I followed is that we're more likely and better able to score in a scrambling type situation than it is to come over and set up the great big play, because our team prided itself on the fact that we can make changes and get exactly where we were supposed to be while the clock was running.
Tony Meyer, outstanding player, one of the big scorers on the team, fouls out. Who goes in?
It was a young man that was a junior, played all year on the JV team, and he was dressed in varsity for the tournament.
He'd played 1 quarter of basketball his junior year, and they put him in. I know Coach Harmon. You look down the bench, and other than the statistician, Jeff's probably the last guy you're going to put in.
Jeff went in the game, and in the final sequence, he's the guy who is largely unguarded, and as they say, the rest is history.
Rebound Scoggins with 10 seconds. Up to Teeters. Teeters to Lenhart with 6. Lenhart to Teeters. He'll take the shot. It's good! We win! Jackson Center wins the state championship! Look at Jerry Harmon! Jerry Teeters made the winning bet!
Couldn't believe it. I couldn't hold my emotions. And there it was.
Jerry! Coach Harmon, how about it? And we're the champ! We're the champ! The Jackson Center Tigers have won the state championship!
That game was absolutely the highlight of my broadcasting career.
Remembering coming home downtown, we had our downtown celebration down in front of the village office, actually. And it was people as far as you could see. It was unbelievable atmosphere.
Hard to believe, but I was sheriff, and we had a good time.
I always, at about 8:30, 8:45, somewhere around there, I estimate when we won the state championship, when that final shot went in. And I'll call one of the players on that 1985 team. And generally what I'll say is, you realize that 30 years ago, at this hour, you became a state champion.
This was the first movie theater my mom ever went to. She was over here visiting family members who live here in the community, and an aunt gave her a dime to come up here to see the show. Everybody always called this theater the show.
The theater, the kids all talk about walking up to the theater, and it's nice because the theater isn't, the high prices that they are in other towns. The kids can go and they can afford to go like every week if they want to.
Oh my gosh. The one I remember most, my mother took me, was Ben-Hur.
The theater will be 75 years old. It was built in 1942 by Elder Duff, founder of Duff Stone Quarry. According to the Browns, the people that we got the theater from, longtime owners of it, their best attended movie and the most popular one was a little film starring Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz called The Long Trailer.
Mario eyes the champagne.
Lucy and Desi buy a house trailer and go drive across country pulling this house trailer. And because Airstream was in the community and it was a house trailer, it was just very, very popular. The biggest attendance-wise so far has been E.T. We actually opened it, but the studio required we had to go 7 days a week in order to show E.T. So we did. And in a 2-week period of time, we put almost 5,000 people through the doors. I like the feel of it. I like the charm of it. I like the old looks of it. And we've tried to maintain that. The nickel candy machine, which we just here 2 years ago, we were forced to raise it to 10 cents, but it still only takes nickels, was bought new for this theater in 1943. We really have no competition in the county. The Elder Theater is the only existing movie theater left in the county.
And it'll be our goal to keep that there as long as possible. It gives something for our kids to do on a weekend. They go to movies. It's something very valuable to us.
If you want to bring a girl on a date, you can bring her here. You can get 2 admissions, 2 large drinks, and a large popcorn for $20. I mean, that's a great deal. The cost of converting to digital was about $80,000. And Hollywood's mandating this change that you got no choice. Either you change or you go out of business. So it was difficult. And my nephew, Ryan Sosby, actually did a GoFundMe campaign, which raised the funds to be able to purchase the digital projector. So our total cost in converting was close to $100,000. So we had a lot of support from the community. There was a lot of people that helped out, far more than we can ever acknowledge or even properly thank them. Well, I think the theaters are going to continue on for quite some time. The wife was asking me if we were going to be celebrating its 100th anniversary. I told her I didn't know. I don't know whether I'm going to make that or not.
You can't have a school without educators. At Jackson Center, there's a long legacy of excellence within these walls, as well as a few urban legends.
People like Thelma Scarberry, which instilled fear in the students.
She put the fear of God in me, and so I tried to keep her happy.
You know, my mom had told me that my aunt had gotten in trouble, and so she was put in the coat room, and the teacher forgot she was in there. So my grandparents had to come to the school to look for her because she never came home on the bus. She was left in the coat room.
You know your students, you know their parents. Have an issue, you make a phone call, and usually it's dealt with.
I have a unique opportunity to be working with a lot of, teachers that I had.
This was like even within the school, the teachers, we were like a it was like a family.
Teachers are often friends after the final bell rings, but for a few on staff, they're also family.
Or you tell what you teach, and then I'll tell what I teach.
Okay, this is my daughter, Sarah. I thought you said you was going to say what you taught.
All right, this is my mom, Laura Kleinhens.
And I teach science 4 through 5.
And I teach grades 6, 7, and 8. Okay, this is my mom, Laura Kleinhens.
And I teach science 4 and 5 at Jackson Center. And this is my daughter, Sarah.
And I teach 6, 7, and 8 science at Jackson.
We were always told, don't go back to your hometown, it just won't be as good. So I didn't. I went to Walk and got hired. And I took off for my kids.
The big advantage for having people come back and teach is that they care, is that they really care, that they're invested in this community. They want the community to succeed.
And Mr. Harmon, he realized that I was a teacher. He says, why don't you come and sub for us? I says, well, okay. And then I subbed a couple years, and then he hired me. So, it was fantastic. I loved it. Anything they told us in college about not going back to your hometown was not true. I think I told her not to be a teacher because it was a lot of work, but she didn't listen to me.
I mean, I knew I wanted to come back to the area, but my heart wasn't set here just yet. But then once I did come back to the area, I knew I wanted to be here. I knew I wanted to come back to my home school.
Were you living at home at the time?
Yeah, I was gonna say I was living at home, so I mean it was like, hey, there's a job opening. And I just love the place. I love the traditions. I love the people. I think it's an inviting community. Actually, our family probably goes crazy because we'll be out of school at a family event and we kind of sit and talk about kids or things going on at school.
I'll say, I'm going to do this, and you can't do it because I'm going to get the kids first, and your kids are here. You know, the spirit of the community is so warm and welcoming. It's just a great place to teach. It's a great place to live, and I'm really glad that I came back.
I have 8 people that I had in the elementary that are here today as teachers or principal.
I was here for 10 years, and my wife and I, we absolutely loved it in Jackson Center, and just made a career change because I was ready for a different challenge. We were away from here for 5 years, but what we found in that 5 years is we spent probably more time back in Jackson Center than we did anywhere else. And at that point, with our 5 children, they were at the ages we weren't going to continue to uproot them, and we made a decision that we wanted to make Jackson Center a permanent home. It's about the people. We had made some unbelievably great friends, and you know, the community in general has always been very welcoming, and it's just a great place to live and raise a family.
I'm getting the heck out of Dodge is what I thought. You know, there's bigger places and there's things to see, and so I went to college actually 2.5 hours from here, and Jackson Center called and asked if I'd be willing to come back because my teacher was going to leave, and I kind of hesitated, but I came to the interview and decided that that was probably the best bet.
It doesn't mean you can't live in another community and come here and do a great job. We have some of those too, but when you find that mix, and you have those people who really care and really want this community and the school to be great, and they live here and they grew up here, then that's gold right there.
I was interested in the Perrysburg position, and so I should be able to get, you know, a good job, big school, and I felt that I was ready to head out and lick the world, you know? And so I came down for this position, and for the interview, I thought, well, this is not what I'm looking for. This is too small. I'm not looking for anything like this. Mr. Foster and I were standing out in the front lawn, and he said something to me, and it may sound hokey to anyone else, but that's why I'm going to say this was almost like an epiphany for someone that was 21 years old. And, you know, he said, you know, the children in this school district deserve as good an education as any child in any school, in any community, ever, anywhere across the country. They deserve just as good. And it kind of let the air out of my balloon, and I thought, not only has he seen right through me, but he's right. And I've always said, if it was good, and if good came out of it, it was by the grace of God. It wasn't anything I did. I ended up in Jackson Center because that's what God wanted for me. And if it was good, it was because that's the way He led me.
The winter concert has been here, I would say, for a long time, and it's really wonderful that we have a community that still supports enjoying the holidays a little bit. I would definitely say that music and the performing arts has always been a part of this school's history, all the way back to the early 1900s, as far as we can see and date back. It's just really a nice thing to continue to grow.
So it's Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America, and the mission of that organization is just to strengthen youth and equip them with communication and life skills so that they can go out into the world and be successful. Having programs like this and FFA and other activities allows those kids who are not athletes to have a place to fit in. You know, there's something that they can excel at and not feel like that because they're not on a volleyball team or a basketball team that what they do is not important. It gives them the opportunity to shine where they're good.
Jackson Center has just something special. It is a small community that supports and backs their school. And because of that, our administrators, our teachers, and our programs are able to do well because there is so much support and drive for excellence here.
We couldn't possibly mention every single teacher that we heard about during our interviews, but the same qualities kept being repeated over and over.
Maybe 3 or 4 faces that come to mind that taught in this room. And that's with every room that I go around. I think of the faces, I think of the people. Mrs. Forsythe.
She was a lady that everyone respected. And she was the teacher that when you went in, you knew what her priorities were. You knew to respect her. You didn't cross her, do anything.
She could whip you and never lay a hand on you.
This room here, I remember, students that I paddled in here.
And everybody loved Mrs. McGowan. She grew up in an age when if you were a man, you could be married and be a school teacher. But if you were a woman, you could not be. You could not. If you got married, you had to quit at that point. So she and her husband actually got married secretly, and lived with her family, so that nobody would know until that rule changed.
McEldowney was in this room. Kathy Tenney started in here and then went to the media center.
I can't remember his name now. I had him for math. Glenn Smith. Oh, Fritz Gross. Yeah. Fritz was in the school building, but I never had him.
I think my coach Gross was because he taught driver's ed. What we would try to do is distract him and see how fast you could go before he would tell you to whoa. And my classmate Donnie Ware has a record, 90 mile an hour on the interstate.
Joyce Wildermuth is the one I remember the most. She was very knowledgeable in science, and she was a science teacher.
I had Mrs. Wildermuth as a student too.
Yeah, so yeah, we both had the same science teacher.
We had the same science teacher too.
The teachers, when I was here in school, were always very approachable, and they were just part of the community.
But regardless of your last name, once you're a Tiger, you are part of a family that cares for one another, even when the times aren't so great.
Jackson Center has been my love since I came here.
Mrs. Nolan was my first grade teacher.
My husband was a car salesman, so Wednesday for many years was his day off. So he would come in for different activities we were having in the classroom. It sort of became my right-hand man over the years. He was part of my classroom.
End of the school year, you'd get to have a picnic in her backyard.
When he got sick with leukemia, the kids here at school through the FCCLA took Terry on as a project.
Anytime that we have one of our own that's hurting or suffering, I feel like we're gonna do whatever we can to just make it a little bit easier, try to help out in any way we can.
We ended up at the James in December, and all of a sudden they were collecting money over here. They made had some T-shirts printed up that said "Tied Together for Terry" and "Team Terry." They made this huge banner, and they had put it up in the cafeteria. And as the kids went through the lunch line, they asked the kids to sign it and put a little note to Terry. He loved that banner. I just felt like they had included us so much, and my husband was from Troy. He wasn't even from this area originally. If you're having difficulties, we're there to help you. And that was one of the things with my husband's illness. It was like, really was appreciated.
The fastest growing industry may be the sign company, who has to add to this growing resume on the edge of town. The past few years have been historic for the Tigers, especially for the girls' teams, due to Jackson Center's leadership regarding girls' athletics.
At that time, Dolores Billhart was state commissioner at the Ohio High School Athletic Association. She was for the women. I told her how pathetic girls' sports was in Ohio, and it was truly deplorable. But 2 things. Number one, this community supported the girls. It put pressure it put pressure on the other schools.
Charlene was the premier leader of girls athletics in Shelby County and in the state as well.
I never ran into a principal here that didn't support girls' sports.
Coach Perrine, Miss Perrine, who was my first principal, she was my high school principal, and when I was hired here, she kind of laid that foundation, and we've had a lot of teams and coaches have taken it and really run with it and even built upon that.
And Jackson Center is the reason girls' sports really got kicked off in this county.
In 1995 and 2001, the girls brought home the Division IV state championship in basketball. In an historic season in 2016, both boys and girls basketball teams were headed to Columbus.
It's kind of unexpected for both of us, and we had both had great tournament runs. It was equally special for me. I had a daughter on the basketball team, which really put me in a dilemma because we played in the regional finals that night, and I wasn't able to attend because I stayed with the boys team so we could get down there, and that was tough on us, but it was a good problem to have. First time in Shelby County Athletic League history where a boys and girls team advanced to the state tournament. That's what I'm always most impressed with, is just their humbleness and their generosity and their willingness to assist and help people. The send-off was probably one of the most incredible things I have ever experienced as a coach, and it's one of the things that you look forward to in your tournament run is the fire truck escorting you back into town. It's actually something that you really play for.
Our whole town has our back.
But a decade or so ago, something began to populate in the midst of all these basketball and baseball trophies. Volleyball trophies began to appear with growing regularity, largely due to a new coach on the scene.
Kim is our assistant treasurer. She is our assistant AD. She monitors all of the sports games, most of the sports games during the winter, all the basketball games. She is our volleyball coach, and she drives the bus.
We hired her to start out. She was cutting grass and cutting bushes and stuff in the summertime. And 30 years later or whatever, here she is as the head volleyball coach, two-time state champion.
Well, Coach Metz is why everything happens on our volleyball team. She's always there for us. She knows what she's talking about. She's smart with the game.
Yeah, she does everything for us. She does our driving to and from our games. She does her stats like while she's coaching. She does everything.
Our volleyball program is in large part due to Kim Metz. She is the person that drives that.
And she just got her 500th win this year.
One thing that has changed is volleyball's getting right up there now.
I played for her, and then as soon as I came back, I started to coach with her. So I've been coaching with her for the past 13, 14 years.
Life's a game. You need to make sure that you are challenging yourself to be successful, and competitions are going to come up to you in so many different aspects. Oh, heck yes, I'm teaching them the game of volleyball, but by golly, you better make sure that you are thinking about the bigger picture as to what's really going on in the space around you.
She has recognized the fact that on top of all those other things, I got to work with my young kids, and I'm going to teach them how to play volleyball, and I'm going to teach them how to love volleyball.
Success breeds success. So when you have the athletes and the coaches that are pushing the kids in the same direction of achieving, even academically. I can't speak enough about the academics, that what these kids do and the level, again, of the expectation level that they bring to themselves.
It's not unusual for us to be coming home on a bus and they're back there doing homework or talking about what they have to do, or they play a huge game and go home and do homework.
She's definitely taught me, no matter what I do, to make sure I'm doing it 100%. Never only go 50%, because hard work will pay off.
It's a lot of responsibility. You learn responsibility, you learn time management, you learn
to like take priorities, take it into your own initiative. Like, that's your job. You have 2 jobs. You handle both of them.
But the great thing about it is they just have so much fun.
Her passion is like unlike any other. It's so strong and powerful. It's just kind of like you get hit with a blast really quickly. Like, oh my goodness, like this is what she wants. Like, this is her life. This is what she breathes. This is what she eats. This is what she sleeps. She sleeps volleyball, literally.
It's the love that I have for every one of my players that have come through the system and the future players, because yeah, there are kids that are currently working to, wear that high school uniform.
It was that passion that sent Jackson Center to Wright State University to place their names in the record books forever. For the first time in Jackson Center and in Shelby County, on the signpost, you will see 2015 and 2016 Girls Division IV Volleyball State Champions back to back.
We thought we were an average team, and then when we got the tournament, we started turning on the heat, and I think we all realized that we could compete and win games and go far in tournament, and we did.
Remember both years just dropping to the floor in tears because I was so excited and so happy that we got this far and we achieved our dreams, but also sad that it was over because I'm really going to miss my team. They're like my family.
Our volleyball right now is just, the epitome in the state of Ohio.
Believing in myself is one of the biggest things she could have ever taught me.
Like I say, we have a legacy here now. We've won 2 girls state basketball championships, and we've won 2 girls volleyball championships, and we have ours, and we have 2 or 3 or 4 other runner-ups. So we're a very accomplished athletic team here now in the entire area, in the entire state, really.
There was one superintendent that said, we must have successful athletic programs because that's the identity of the community. And if you have successful athletics, they view that you also are successful in the classroom. The whole perception of the school is raised.
Well, it's like any community, or anything really, you're gonna get out of it what you put into it. And Jackson Center is the type of place that just has a lot of people who put a lot into it.
I think when people are looking for a place to live, they're looking for a progressive community and they're looking for an outstanding school system. And fortunately, we have both of those here in Jackson Center.
I think we're probably one of the better examples of how small towns can function, how they work, how they get along, how they're successful.
The American Legion does so many things to support not only our school, but also the community with meals and things like that. It's a great community that people become a part of.
It's an honor to be a part of a community that respects and loves this country. They embrace the military. Courtney Gasson right now is the latest, I believe, who joined the Air Force right out of high school last year. She joined because she loves her country and she wanted to serve her country. I hope that the people that live in Jackson Center cherish the memories that we have. I hope that we'll always respect God and country as we have now, that generations to come will do the same, and that the foundations that we've built here in this community will live on and grow from that. And if it does, then I see nothing but good things continuing to happen in the future.
First weekend in June every year, Thursday night through Sunday, we have a parade and bands. Everybody gets together and has a good old time.
And as my father always referred to our little homecoming, Jackson Center's version of a World's Fair, and it's a big deal.
And I never forget this, the first day I came in for my first interview, it felt like home. I walked in here and I thought, okay, here's a place I could be proud to work, a place I could be proud to retire from.
And that has been the story behind this village located in western Ohio, with the community focused on reimagining and innovating every day so that quality of life for their families continues to prosper and grow.
It's the people, it's the churches, it's the business, it's the community that comes together that makes Jackson Center a great place.
It was just a story that needed to be told.